Hi, Andrea here for leadsandconversion.com, and in this video I'm going to talk about best practices, conversion rate optimization, and A/B testing. And I'm going to explain you what's the difference and which one I advise my clients to use on their website. So let's talk about best practices first. What are best practices? Well, none other than they are things that have been tested by others. They are things that they worked for others. So like other people have tested solutions on their websites, and these solutions prove to generate a higher conversion rate. So over time, with more and more people testing the same things, we develop this knowledge that it's known as a best practice. Okay, now those things, although they're best practices, they may not work for you. So that's the important part of the equation that you should keep in mind, that not all best practices are actually working on every site. And that's why we do what is known as conversion rate optimization programs, because we want to find out what are the things that work for us on our website with our audience. So before I talk about conversion rate optimization, I want to address why these best practices are not always working. Well, because audiences are different. So you may talk to an audience that is more rigid, if you want, than another one, more skeptical, if you want, or you may talk to an audience that is very easygoing, they're very high willingness to buy, they have access to more money, so it's easier to convert this audience. So some of the best practices that work for others, they may not be necessary on your site. So that's why best practices, well, it's a nice place where to start, but it doesn't solve the problem usually. So then we go to conversion rate optimization programs, which are, well, custom made. These are like, they look like this. I'm going to show you. So the first thing is to make an expert analysis, also known as heuristic analysis. And this is basically the expert comes to your company and it tells you what it would do just by looking at the site. So this is basically applying best practices. Now, this is, again, a good place to start, but I wouldn't, if somebody says, this is what I'm going to do for you, that's not nearly enough, okay? It's good to have the opinion of an expert, but this is what it is. It's an opinion, right? Until you test things, it doesn't matter, all right? So what you want to do instead is after this first analysis, first opinion, you have to make a behavioral analysis of your own audience, and then it has to end up in reviewing the positioning and messaging of your product or service or brand, whatever. So if you do the conversion rate optimization research, also known as research, right? And you don't end up changing your copy, well, you're doing it wrong, okay? So you always want to gather data, qualitative data and quantitative data. Show you in a moment what I mean by that. But after this analysis, the result is changes, all right? And these changes have to be implemented on your website, in your products, in your offers, and in your entire branding if you want, okay? If those are the changes that need to be done. Now let's see here the behavioral analysis. So we are first going to collect quantitative data. And by quantitative data, I mean, well, clicks, scrolls, and frequency and time. So how many times people are coming back to your website? Are they coming back at all? So how much time they engage with a piece of content? So by looking at these things, where they click, how much they click, how long they scroll, we understand engagement. And we understand which are the pieces of content that are more engaging. And so what is that your audience is more interested in, okay? So with this in mind, we can now form opinions about the website and about the audience. So that's one part, quantitative analysis. And the other part is the qualitative data, which is usually surveys and polls. So we send to your users, well, this can be done on the site. So we pop questions on the site, or we send emails. And then we make user interviews. So we talk to people. We talk to people that come to your website and try to understand their motivations, what they're really interested in. And then we make user testing. So we observe somebody. Maybe these people are paid to carry on a task on your website, like find the product and buy it. And we observe how they behave. Can they find the product? Is the navigation easy? Do they like what they see? So this is called user testing, and it's part of the CRO research that is done at the beginning of the CRO program. Okay. Now, one last step, which is super important, is the collection of customer lifetime value data. And so here we want to identify first, and then we want to talk to your most valuable customers. Why? Because these are the people that generated more revenue for you, and these are the people that have been longer with your business. So find the most valuable customer. And here it's like, in terms of money, how much money you go and look at your sales data, and you identify the people or companies, if you want, if you are B2B, that brought the most revenue to your business. Okay, so you find them here, then you do the same for the customers that have been with you for the longest time. And then you have basically two types of customer. So one is valuable in time, and the other one is valuable in money. Okay, they will be overlapping to some extent. So take the best of your customers, the most valuable part of your customers, and then talk to them. The next step is to make customer interviews. Now this is different from this, because here we're talking to everyone that comes to the site, just trying to improve the usability and the feeling they have towards the brand. So trust, if you want. We want to understand the clarity of the site, but that's an entirely different objective from what we're trying to do here. So here, by talking to customers, we want to understand how does the product or service, or products and services, impact the life of the customers. Okay, what is really valuable for them about the products? So what we want to understand with this type of interview is really, is your product good? Does your positioning reflect what your product does? And more important, is your customer talking about your product or service in the same way that you are? Because if they're not talking the same way, then there is a misalignment there that you need to correct, and that's why you need to go and change the positioning, right? So this is all a discovery work, if you want, that you see, like, it's a lot of work and it's massive, and this is something that you don't get if you just follow best practices. You see, it should be obvious that the conversion rate optimization program, and the research in particular, allows you to find, to uncover aspects that are very specific to your business. They are unique, okay? And this is why the CRO work is so valuable, okay? Now, there is one last step. After we have done the positioning work and we have reviewed the messaging based on what we have discovered here, we have to do experimentation, okay? Because at this point, all we have is a theory. They're all hypotheses. Now we have to go and check, can we use this hypothesis to change the behavior of people? And this is what we go to do in this phase, which starts with the generation of insights. So we look at all this data and we start to get ideas. Okay, I see this is like this, so maybe it's because of this particular fact that this is happening. Okay, so insights first, idea, and then hypothesis, and we are like here. And then this hypothesis would be like a bunch of hypotheses, like 50, 100 hypotheses. We need to prioritize them because we can't work on all at the same time, on all the hypotheses at the same time. And when I say prioritize them, what I mean is we have to evaluate what is the visibility of the treatment. Treatment is called treatment, but it's a change that we want to make on the site. So what do we want to change? And we have to evaluate the visibility. Is it something that everybody is going to see? And this is important because if it's not, then maybe it won't be so valuable change, okay? Because it will affect just fewer people. So we want to make changes that affect the most people as possible. And then we want to evaluate what is the potential impact of the treatment. So how is this going to impact our conversion rate? Do we expect to improve the conversion rate by a lot or just by a tiny bit? And then last, how easy it is to implement this change? Because if it's very, very difficult and it takes a lot of time, maybe it's something we want to do later. Okay, so mainly with these three metrics here, we can generate a score. We make up a spreadsheet, we put all the hypotheses there, we fill these three values, the three metrics for each one of the hypotheses, and then we end up with a score that we can use to sort the spreadsheet. Then after this, we will start to work with the treatment that we identified. So we decided we want to work with this hypothesis. We are going to make this change. Now we have to design the change to apply on the website. And so we do this and then we develop the test, the A/B test or redirect test, split test, how you want to call it. So this is a test experiment you have to make on your site. Then you run the test, then you report on your findings, and then you're basically back to the insights here because you collect data during this testing period. So you see, is this change we made improving our conversion rate or it's not? And if it is, then the hypothesis is verified. But if it isn't improving the conversion rate, then we got the assumption wrong. So we need to understand why it didn't work. Okay, so we go back to generate insights. And now you see A/B testing is just is this part of CRO. That's what it is. So it's the experimentation phase of a CRO program, and it can be done as a standalone activity, but I really wouldn't recommend it. Why? Because what is that you're going to test? That's the main question. And if you do the conversion rate optimization program, you know really well what is that you're going to test because you discovered things. You have all this list of hypotheses that came from the insights you had, that came from the research you made, okay? But if you don't do that work, then what are you testing? True, you can take best practices and test them all one by one and see how they apply to your site. This is an easy way to do it. And many companies do this, but if you do the conversion rate optimization work, the research, then you're really testing something that may potentially have a much greater impact on your business because it is exactly what is needed to clarify your positioning and to improve your product. So that's in a nutshell why we're doing conversion rate optimization programs, and that's how A/B testing differs from CRO. It's actually a part of it, and that's how And that's why you shouldn't just use best practices in your business. I hope this video was helpful. That's it for this one. I'll see you at the next one. Ciao.